Funny.
And we are live. All righty. So let this video connect on my other monitor so that we can grab the link and put it in the group so that our community can conveniently join us on YouTube Live and in the live chat. I'm so proud of YouTube. It's just been giving up this link like it's supposed to for going on 2 weeks now. I appreciate that. I really don't want to fight for the link. All right, so we got that over there in the community. Let me make sure I can see this chat. All right, we are ready, Freddy. So good morning. Welcome to Unlock Your First Six Figures morning show. I am your host, Shay Cannon. Most things we do around here center around a blog, and this week's blog is at shaycannon.com/, I was gonna say mitigate risk, but it's /manage risk. Because what we've been talking about all week is risk management for solopreneurs. Okay, let me move my glasses so it's not, there we go. For solopreneurs, because solopreneurs is, what we know about us is we don't usually use words like operations, and we definitely don't use words like risk management. And so we don't really give it the proper credence in our business that we should, right? So we know about risk. We know when things feel risky to us, but we are not looking at the areas of business that we should be intentional about risk and the managing of that risk, okay? So, but just like entrepreneurship, some risk can be very rewarding. So we have to make sure that number one, is it a risk or is it not a risk? If you want to know more about that, is it a risk or is it just your fear, right? Go back to part one's replay where we talked about risk or no risk, okay? And then on yesterday, what we talked about were the categories of risk, right? What areas in your business exactly should you be kind of looking at? We gave you some top areas. I think it was the top 5 areas to be looking for risk in your business. If you need to know those areas and what risk to look for, you need to go to yesterday's replay. That was part 2. Today is part 3, and we're talking about assessment of risk, okay? So the key to risk is in assessment. We have to assess it, right? So properly evaluating the potential impact and likelihood of each risk allows solopreneurs to make informed decisions, okay? So all risk we can't avoid, all risk we can't prevent, right? But our goal is, no matter what's going on in our business, to try to make the most informed decision possible, right? That's all it's about. We would like to avoid all risk, but we cannot, right? We would like to take no risk, but we can't do that, right? That's not reality. So the goal for us is for us to stay calm, right? And then decide what decisions need to be made as informed as we can, okay? So this involves identifying potential risk, analyzing their consequences, and determining the level of risk tolerance, okay? Risk tolerance. This is what makes risk individual, custom, not the same for everybody. Your tolerance for risk, right? Your tolerance for risk could have to do with the resources that you have that you can't replace, right? It could have to do with, how much stress can you be under, right? Some stuff, I don't do stress, so you know what I'm saying? So, I'm finding that in this big age of about to be 53 next week, that some stuff I just don't want to be bothered with. I don't even want to, if it looks like it's going to be stressful, the answer is no, okay? So your risk tolerance is probably not the same as the next person. You and somebody else could have the same problem and react to it very differently, solve it very differently, have an impact that's very different, right? Have a lasting impact and an immediate impact that's very different based on your risk tolerance. Now, again, what we want to do is learn how to make good decisions based on what's best for us. A lot of us try to mimic other people, forgetting that they have different resources. They have different levels of support, different levels of stress, different levels of risk tolerance. So the goal is to effectively do risk assessment, which involves continuously monitoring new risk, adjusting strategies as your business evolves, ensuring that risk taken are calculated risk. I love me a good old calculated risk, okay? and align with your overall business goals. Okay. So that's everything that is in the blog, but you know, here in the morning show, you get more. So what I would like to talk about, good morning, Chantilly over there on the YouTube side. What I would like to talk about are, speaking of tolerance, there are 4 levels of risk that you're going to assess based on your own tolerance. Okay. 4 levels of risk. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to think of well, I'm going to give you the levels first because they know you should be telling you that part yet. But I'm going to start with Kimberly. You put yours in the chat, and then I'm going to go to Dr. Dr. LaFera first. So these are the assessment levels. Number 1, unacceptable risk. Okay. Unacceptable risks. I can't accept it at all, right? Unacceptable risks are those that could severely harm the business and must be avoided or mitigated immediately. Okay. We can't ignore this thing at all. It is simply unacceptable. Okay. So that's the one level. The next level is going to be a reasonable risk. Okay. And it's manageable, right? It got potential to have a negative outcome, but it's balanced by some possibility to a significant reward, right? We kind of talked about risk and reward on day 1, but this one it's a risk, but it's reasonable and it could have some reward. And so it should be approached with caution and strategic planning. Okay. So we went from unacceptable to reasonable. Okay. The next level of risk is acceptable risk. Okay. And that is those where the potential downside is very minimum compared to the benefits. Yeah, it might be a little small negative impact, but the great impact is huge. It's, this is like almost, what I'm saying? We got to do this thing, right? So what we're risking is not large at all. It's not a huge thing at all. And so it makes it worth taking the risk, especially for growth opportunities. All right. Because what we know is, again, we can't avoid risk. We have to live with risk. But also all risk is not a bad thing. Some risk is worth it. Okay. If you look at risk like a gatekeeper, that's how I want you to look at it. Risk is a gatekeeper based on who you are, what your tolerance is, what your resources are, what your goals are. That's how you kind of are going to decide when you get to the gate, should you pass the gate? And the gate is risk. Okay. What we know about risk is it's there because everybody is not going to get these results. Okay. Everybody is not going to get this goal achieved. Everybody is not going to get these benefits. They have to go through that gate of risk. And some people, as soon as they see the gate in the distance, they go the other way, right? Some people, they'll go up to it and kind of look at it and then be like, no. Some people go through. We have to decide who we are. But again, we want it to be calculated. So it depends on what the risk is, what the risk tolerance is. Last but not least, the last level, which is the level we would love to have with everything, is negligible risk. Okay. And that is when you have little to no impact on the business that's negative. And you can often overlook or handle with minimal effort. Okay. It really don't have a bad thing going on. And most of it don't really have a good thing going on. It's kind of balanced out. You can leave it or you can take it or leave it. Right. So it's freeing you to be more focused on critical decisions. Now, I'm going to tell you, when we learn about these 4 risk levels, unacceptable, reasonable, acceptable, negotiable. What is this word? Hold on. I see my Alabama might be acting up. Y'all know I treat Alabama like it's a disease. But I'm going to put this in the chat. Somebody come off the mic and tell me, am I saying that right?
Negligible.
So I said it right the first time. Negligible. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you. So we have to take these levels of risk, right? And so when something pops up that gives us a feeling in our gut or gives us a bad feeling period, or it kind of scares us, or it triggers fear or whatever, right? It triggers us to stop and think harder about it. We have to think about which one of these levels is this threat really, right? Is it unacceptable? Is it reasonable? Okay. Especially for the reward, is it reasonable? Is it acceptable? Okay. Because the downside is very minimum, but if I go ahead and do it, the upside is, infinite. or is it negligible? Barely got it out that time. Where it's kind of balanced. You could take it or leave it. It doesn't really have an impact. So you can probably save that decision for later, or maybe even not make it. So when it comes to those decisions, think about the stuff where you be like, you know what, I will see. You know what I'm saying? Some of those decisions, I play chicken with God, and I'd be like, I'll let him decide. Now, I should be that way with all decisions, but the ones that I don't feel no downside or no upside, I'd be like, yeah, sure, go ahead. That's called going with the flow. Let's just see what happens, right? So what I would like to know from you is, what is a risk that is unacceptable to you in your business right now? And what is one that is acceptable to you in your business right now, right? So unacceptable will harm your business and should be avoided, right? Acceptable is there's a minimum downside and the risks are great. And I want you to think about some of the actions you've been hesitant to take in your business. Okay. When you think about it, is it actually an unacceptable action or is it an acceptable action? Okay. So tell me what the action is for unacceptable. Tell me what one is that is acceptable. All right. An action for me that is unacceptable, all right, is for me to continue to take new clients on my fractional chief operating officer service side. That is unacceptable to me. Okay, because yes, I will get some benefit. I can make more money, right? I got clients waiting over there. But the downside for me and my risk tolerance is too much, because the more I spend time over there, the more I cannot nurture and grow and create this coaching side. And that's the side I prefer to be on. So there's this in the middle that it feels like risk, right? Because the revenue, right? If the coaching is just starting, so the revenue is already down, and then I'm not accepting more revenue over here. And as people drop off, I'm not replacing them. So it looks like great risk. But nope. It is unacceptable for me to grow that side of the business, knowing that I will not be happy, knowing that the money is not worth it, knowing that I prioritize my freedom over money. Okay, so that risk of growing that side and not paying attention to my coaching side is unacceptable to me. Okay, so that's an example. An acceptable risk for me is one that has a little minimal downside, but it could be well worth it to start running ads, paid ads, right? I've done this organic marketing thing. I know it works for me. Now it's time to put some fuel on the fire and go ahead and start with the paid ads. Now, in my mind, right? Woo, so many people have wasted money. This is a risk. Well, no, you've done the work. The risk is minimal for you. You see what I'm saying? So when I look at it for my business, I've done the organic marketing work. I have data to help me make decisions. And so the risk, is it still a risk? Yes, but the risk is small and the benefit could be great. So those are my examples of unacceptable risk and acceptable risk. All right, Kimberly, put yours in the studio comments for me. And Chantilly, put yours in the YouTube comments for me. And we're going to start with Dr. LaFera. Dr. LaFera, for how you are situated in your business with resources and your tolerance, what is something that is unacceptable and what is something that is acceptable as a risk in your business right now? I got y'all thinking this morning.
I guess you do have us thinking this morning. So what I said was, I'll start with the acceptable one. What I said was, so with me, the direction that I have been fighting like for a long time is like whether like how I'm going to focus on like the ingredients that we put in on and around our body, and like, do the juicing and the beauty products and that type of stuff, and be Dr. LaFera. And like when I met you, we had already been doing that. Like, we already had that messaging. And I always kind of felt like I had to in some way keep them separate. For various reasons, but mostly because, I was trying to focus on one thing and I didn't, understand how I could do it. So I'm accepting the risk, which is not really a risk to me because it's who Dr. LaFera is what Dr. LaFera does, and it's what you see when you look at me. It's like it's like my business. It's like my business is beauty. My business is like, the stuff that we put in our body, which is food. Like it's like all of that. So I accept that risk. I accept that, people see someone who overcomes adversity when they look at me. So in my messaging, I will incorporate all of that. And it's not a risk that, like I had been seeing it as being fractured. um, what I am, I guess, seeing as an unacceptable risk is for me to, right now, for me to like take on any new coaches or whatever, like to do anything like that, because I already know that that's why I keep like ending up in the situations I end up in. It's because like I need to pay attention. It's like I'm being taught something through life, and I don't need someone else to try to redirect me. And I don't need any new direction. So for me, it's unacceptable for me to bring on any type of like new outside person who doesn't know me and my journey and try to like get advice from them to do any of the stuff that I'm doing.
Cool beans. All right. We appreciate that share, Dr. LaFera. Keith, you can come off the mic, or you can use the studio comments to let us know, based on the definitions that I gave, right? What is something that is acceptable and something that is unacceptable as a risk in your business right now when you look at your resources, your goals, and your tolerance level? Okay, we're going to come back to Keith. Dr. Toya, you out, Dr. Toya, Miss Meteorologist. So what is, based on the definitions given, what is something that is acceptable, something that is unacceptable as a risk in your business right now? Because of course, our risks don't stay the same always, right? As we grow, some risks fall off, some risks get greater. So right now, and when you look at your resources, your goals, and your tolerance.
I think an acceptable risk, I've been battling between the two, trying to figure out which one I was going to go with. I think an acceptable risk for me is, clearly I didn't decide. Let me do a not acceptable. The not acceptable risk is similar to you, is I default to my comfort zone and start taking individual clients and sessions, which then pulls me away from the thing that I know I need to be doing. But it's a way it's like, oh wait, no, that's money, right? I can bring that in, and I keep defaulting to it, even though I'm saying, no, you're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I think for me, just going all in or not doing that is the not acceptable risk. And then the acceptable risk that I'm willing to take at this point is, this is also holding me accountable, is there's a mastermind that I would like to start in January, which the expense is super, super high, but I know that the reward on the other side of that is going to be immense. And so that's the risk.
I love that. I love that. And I will tell you, since your unacceptable is kind of the same as mine, it's okay if you taper that off, right? You don't have to go cold turkey. You can taper it off, but that's when you have to make sure that you're prioritizing the group coaching, right, over the one-on-one stuff. So it's not, don't take any. It might be, I might can take, one here, one there, until I get this other side truly off the ground. But you have to understand and execute as though that group coaching is the priority, even though it may not be bringing in the most money right now. Does that make sense? Because sometimes we can't afford to go cold turkey. And so that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, cool beans. All right. Shawana Kennedy Media, based on the definitions given today, what is something that is acceptable and something that is unacceptable as a risk in your business right now, when you look at your resources, goals, and tolerance?
One of the things that I go back and forth on is as it relates to social media management versus straight up online video production.
Mm-hmm.
because I know with Kennedy Media, it has a great potential to be an agency model.
Mm-hmm.
However, even knowing that as a future possibility and goal, I still do not want to give up the online video production because that's where I would prefer a larger percentage of me to be. However, I do go back and forth with taking on new people for the social media side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm even really strategic in how I even use the language because no, I think about being a content creator, graphic designer, and all of those things because if people really looked at what a social media manager does and what the cost is, people they call you that, but you're really not that to that level. And so that's kind of where I go back and forth because even though I do not promote it, that's still how people find me or through conversation. That is where the people filter in from. And the bulk of my clients, that's what they are. And so for me, I go back and forth because I don't want to be like tied to it, but I am, uh, grateful that the resources are, they're not only coming, they are here, that is giving me some reprieve in that is not me just really trying to do all the work. So that gives me the hope, not just the glimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to say, Shay, in these last 30 days, uh, things are turning around as it relates to that, so that I'm not as strained,
Yes.
and I'm excited. I'm excited. So that's what it is to me, if that makes sense to you.
It does make sense. You're saying the same thing me and Toya are saying, right, Dr. Toya? And so at the end of the day, we have a side of the business that we want to suppress and sunset, and we have a side of the business we want to grow and make the entire business, right? And so you have to do like we just said, right? You have to make sure that you're not prioritizing that social media. You're not giving too much time to that social media, even though it may bring in a lot of money. And another thing that us three, need to also think about is when it comes to the side that you're trying to sunset, you need to make sure that that pricing is right, right? Up that price so everybody's not just so willing to come on that doggone side. And when they are so willing to come on that side, you know what I'm saying? It makes it a little more worth it for you, right? So we need
I
to up
actually
our
this
price on
week,
that side.
I with that thought and thinking, and I actually did honestly had you in my mind. I had a conversation this week with a new potential person,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking of all of these things, I guess unconsciously, I really did up the price based on the request. And
Yes,
because I was like, no, it has to make sense. And so,
exactly.
yeah, I'll keep you posted on that one.
Yes, please do. And don't forget, if you have the Clarity Clinic Success Kit, in your bonus folder is a resource that is 21 considerations to raise your prices. So it's kind of trying to help you to step raising your prices. Okay, so don't forget to check out that bonus. All right, let's go to Teray. Teray, based on the definitions given, what is something that is acceptable and something that is unacceptable as a risk in your business right now when you look at your resources, goals, and tolerance?
Yeah. So what's unacceptable to me is the one-on-one coaching clients.
Ooh. Mm.
I feel like I don't want to deal with that smoke. I just don't want to, for all the reasons. But what is acceptable to me is group coaching subscription clients.
Love it.
I can coach them through their journey. I can help them along the way. I can guide them. I can help them celebrate small successes and milestones.
Love it.
So,
I love that. Let's go to Heather. Heather, based on the definitions given, what is something that is acceptable, something that is unacceptable as a risk in your business right now during this Libra season, when you look at your resources, goals, and tolerance?
So unacceptable to me is continuing to try to do all this shit by myself.
Yeah.
So that's unacceptable. It's clearly getting to the point where it's way beyond me to do all of it. So and then what is acceptable is trusting others to not only help with editing and all of that sort of thing, but also bringing on somebody to help me with the administrative side of the business as well. So
I love that. I love that. So what's something that's acceptable?
that is acceptable.
Oh, just bringing somebody on?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. Okay, I didn't know you had just.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
flipped
I
the
meant
coin.
to.
I thought you were still on acceptable and how you were going to. Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
I
no.
got you. I got you.
Two sides
All
of the same coin.
I got you. I got you. No problem. No problem. All right. Debbie is with us. She got on my favorite color, blue. Debbie, based on the definitions given today, what is something that is acceptable and something that is unacceptable as a risk in your business right now, when you look at your resources, goals, and tolerance?
So I kind of think it's the same one thing, but for different circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
In order to attract new customers or just to get out there and so show people what I can do, I have bartered. I've given away. Just, in some instances, bartering is good. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a risk I'm willing to take when I feel as though I'm getting something from the other person.
Yes.
But what's not acceptable is when I, say, for instance, sit on a committee and I'm giving, and I just feel it's kind of taking advantage. So
Okay.
I feel like I'm giving a little too much away.
Yes. And it's okay to be in a season of needing you for you, right?
Mhm.
So it's okay. Even though you may have used to enjoy it. See, one of the things that in business that we have to understand is being an entrepreneur, but especially a solopreneur, changes you. Because it starts to change your priority. It starts to change how you spend your time. It starts to change what feels good to you. It starts to change what's a good thing to you and what's a bad thing to you. It starts to change what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, right? And so it is okay to go with the flow of those changes for the betterment of your business, right? Especially, and it's much easier for those of us that are not still raising children, that don't have companions that we have to put first, or that aren't even caretakers, right? So as a caretaker, Debbie, there's still some things you have to put first over your wants and needs for your business. But for those of us that don't have some of these things, there's no excuse on why you aren't focused on your business the way you should. Don't get hung up in the way life was before business became a thing for you. Okay. Business is your thing now. I tell people all the time, I'm married to business right now. You know what I'm saying? Everything else is not the priority. Business comes first. My business is what takes care of me. My business is actually where I get a lot of joy from, right? Which is why I have to stop the number of podcasts that I'm listening to and books that I'm reading, because at one point, everything I did had to do with business. And I was like, all right, you're weighing yourself down. Even though you enjoy it, you still need a break from it, right? So yeah. It is okay to change life based on your new priority of growing your business. And some of those assignments of your time, you need to do what? Reclaim your time, reclaim your time. And that's okay. Shawana, you was trying to add to that. Is that why you came off the mic?
Yeah, I wanted to just as a reminder of, and I don't know if everybody is already doing this, because of where we are or maybe in our business, if we are doing that bartering or helping or whatever, make sure before you say yes, something to consider is, who is that entity? Is that a viable entity that you know that you could get an in-kind letter from, so that in some regard on the back end, it can still benefit you on the back end? I mean, outside of course, relationship building and possible other leads and things like that. But especially when it comes to monetary, we cannot forget those in-kind letters and things that still mean something on the back end. So do not forget that. Do not forget that. I just had to add that.
Love it. I love it. And it's okay that even people who got most of your time at one time don't get a lot right now, based on you needing you for you, right? Because that's why I was kind of semi-fussing at Dr. LaFera. She got these big old boys, but you still over there doing stuff for them on a level that's not helpful to you, when they should now be transitioning into being more helpful to you than you doing all these things for them. With age comes them being more independent and them being more of a help as a part of the household, just like you want them to be a part of society, right? And so You know, but I'm on the extreme of that. Y'all already know all of my kids now, they even know, you know, if you got an emergency, don't call your mama in Mexico. You best off call 911, because what I'm gonna do, I don't even have my ringer on. So you need somebody else as your emergency contact. So I'm on the extreme end. But you need to go back through your life and reevaluate, right? Some stuff needs, some of these reevaluations may need a I don't want to use the word approval, but it may need buy-in, right? So for example, it's okay to, you know, pull away from kids in an age appropriate way to help them to be more independent. However, when you married that man or got with that lady, y'all had this either spoken or unspoken contract of who you were supposed to be. So you might have to go back to them and get buy-in, right? Because how you represented yourself when you started that relationship is probably who they fell in love with, who they wanted, and you just changing it may or may not be okay with them. So with that, you have to kind of get buy-in, right? So you have to think about those types of relationships. Even your relationship with your job, right? I had to have one of the people that from my mastermind that I was in, I created an operations pod. So everybody that had an offering that had to do with business operations, I put in a group together. One of the ladies in the group, the reason why she can't get her business off the ground is because her job takes so much from her, right? But you know, it don't really take that much from you. You just give too much, right? So you need to redefine who you are to that job versus who you're going to be to this business. Because some of that stuff you're doing at a job, you're doing it because you decided to do it, not because them people require it. You know what I'm saying? Just because that's the way you thought you were supposed to do it. And it's okay for you to pull back and look at, you know, what exactly are they paying me for versus what am I doing? Okay. Because if y'all ain't learned nothing else, that lady being at that desk, or I can't remember if it was later or man, I think it was a lady, for 4 days before they realized she was dead. What? On the job? What? You been at the desk for 4 days and ain't nobody really paying attention. Now, I will tell you, I don't know the details because I didn't really want to read the actual story. So I don't know if they just had their own office, were they in a cubicle? I don't know how ridiculous it was, but it's still ridiculous to me that somebody could be somewhere for 4 days and nobody know that they dead, okay? That shows you how much these corporate relationships with you as a corporate employee mean. So you give them what you're supposed to give them, but stop all that extra, because all that extra is what's keeping you from having the job as a dream funder, and it makes the job all encompassing of your time, right? So we have to look at these things. Let's see what's going on. Okay. Heather said boundaries. Yes, boundaries. Yep. So Kimberly said unacceptable to her is not having multiple manufacturers for her product. She's having supply chain issues right now because I'm using just one. And on top of that, they've raised prices. Yeah, we got to check in with the prices sometimes. Acceptable, reevaluating my budget to allow for assistance, which means team and tech. Yes, I love that. Then we got Keith. Keith said unacceptable stuff going on with him is compromising on quality, delivering subpar work, ignoring client feedback, missing deadlines. Okay. Acceptable actions and risks are open communication, regular updating of the client on project progress, and being transparent about potential delays or issues. Yes, please do. Continuous learning, staying updated with the latest design trends and tools to provide the best service possible. And last but not least, flexibility, being adaptable to changes and willing to revise designs based on constructive feedback. Yes, I will tell you about the revisions, though. You still need to put a cap, the number of revisions, and you need to guide the feedback, because what we know is with you creators, people like to give you feedback that's not helpful the fuck at all, right? So, I don't like it. It needs more. How do I turn that more into a design? It's highly subjective. It's highly, to people's interpretation. So you have to do it in a way, Keith, that makes them give you feedback that you can actually use. And as you're going through your revisions, you go through them in a way that's bringing it to a close. Now, let me tell you how I do revisions on creative work, okay? You get 3 rounds of revisions. You are going to be presented with 3 different designs. Your goal for round 1 is to turn those 3 designs into 2 designs. So look at all 3, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. Let's pick out the one we want to use as a base, and how are we going to change 2, okay? Now, the next revision is I'm going to present you with 2 designs based on that feedback. The goal of this round of revisions is to get it down to 1, okay? So tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. Which one are we going to use as a base, okay? So that's round 2. Round 3 is I'm going to present you with 1 final design based on all your feedback, okay? And what I'm not entertaining is new fucking feedback. I'm not entertaining new stuff. Now you done pulled out your ass that you wanted to look like this. No, we're not doing that. We only take all the feedback from the last round. And guess what? This is your final revision. And this is just to perfect and finalize, right? So you kind of have to do stuff like that, Keith. You have to tell them what kind of feedback is useful, because opinions are not useful. Tell me what you want. Right? You have to make them start with visual representations of what they like and what they don't like. Don't just take words. Words can be interpreted. They are subjective. So, as you can tell, Keith, I'm excited. I'm passionate about that creative stuff because folks get on my nerves. But yeah, so do that revision and that feedback with goals in mind. Start with 3. The goal is to get it to 2. Then the next goal is to get to 1, and then it's all about finalizing that 1. And guess what? After round 2, we're not entertaining new information. We ain't doing it. We ain't doing it. And so we need to be very clear when you're telling them about the process. We need to be very clear in your contracts, all the things. Okay. So yeah, he said, I'm using this. Thank you. Yes, let me tell you. Let's see. Kimberly said, feedback caused me to add products that aren't selling. Yeah. See, hell no. But some of that also, Kimberly, you can't just blame the feedback. You also have to blame that lack of clarity, right? Because people don't give us feedback all the time. But when we're clear on stuff, we know what feedback is valuable and what feedback is not. That's how it was phrased, feedback. You should add such and such to go with it. Yeah, people always have ideas. But when you're clear on stuff, no. Let me see. Dr. Toya said, I'm team tell them what I want. I'm going to help you help me. Oh, yes, you're good at that. I love that too. That's why it's a joy to work with you. All right, over here on the YouTube side, we got Chantilly said, a non-acceptable risk for me is consistent networking and marketing. And my acceptable risk is taking my services off of Fiverr. Yes, ma'am. I love that. And again, you can taper that off, Chantilly. You can taper that. So you can make your queue longer, even though there aren't a whole bunch of people in the queue, right? You can put on there. I love to see when people say, hey, send me a message before you buy a gig, you know what I'm saying? Because, I may or may not be available. You could say something like that. Also, raise the prices on your gigs, because what that'll do is if a gig comes through, at least the pricing will make it worth it. So do that. Glow said, I agree. I've been going with the flow with conversations with Glow. Yeah, you need to, you've been going with the flow with a lot of stuff, Glow. You need to get more structured over there, boo. Take it seriously, Glow. Take it seriously. Let's get it. Look, keep your heart 6 stacks. Let me stop. Okay, so Heather, I got something for you. You had to go on yesterday, but your risk the category was market risk, right?
Yes.
And so I did talk to you in the replay, but I wanted to give it to you today. So you do have a market risk. And I was telling them that, you have a true one, which is that people are finding other ways to write books and edit them and publish them, right?
Yep.
And so for you got to lean into that innovation, right? You cannot stay the same. And what I gave as an example was Polaroid, right? So there came a time, Polaroid that came back around, but there came a time where they dipped in sales because when digital cameras came out, nobody cared about a printable picture, let alone an instant one, because having a whole bunch of pictures without paying more money was instant and it was cost effective, right?
Yep.
So you're going to have to lean into the innovative ways for people to get their book out there. And then I told them about how you can help them do what I'm doing with the, go to other resources of content to write books. For example, my workshops. Y'all know I got at least 10 workshops now. If I made a book out of each one of them, how many books could I release in a year, right? So for as many workshops as I do, I can release a book. Look at the speed of that, right? And even the way that, even tools or instruction on, the best ways to edit, right? So now instead of them getting the service, maybe now what they're following is your guide to developmental edits. And
Okay.
maybe what that is, it's a mini course. Okay. With maybe some checklists for each little module. Because at the end of the day, you run into too many people like me that don't care that the Alabama is showing up, then that's how the times are rolling, right?
Right.
So, and it's crazy because I don't know if y'all know Dr. Will, but his name is Dr. Will Moreland. He does speaking.
Yep.
At one time when I was still doing publication services, he and I were on the same live interview. And one of the ladies asked him about one of his covers on his book or something, right? And he said, you know, he said, I do ugly covers all the time. He said, because what I know is I can sell a book whether the cover is ugly or not. And I was like, okay. And then she started talking about editing, right? And what he said was, he's like, I don't really put too much stock in editing. I let y'all edit. When y'all tell me something wrong, I go and I correct it. He was like, thank you. He said, so who I hire as my editor? Y'all. When y'all tell me, I go correct it. And I was like, okay, this dude here. But it's also one of those benefits of having a male business bestie, because they give you a whole different feel and outlook on stuff. Because we as women, we're so nurturing. Most of us are a lot perfectionists. We don't want to let stuff out. You know what I'm saying? And they on their 4th ugly book out here making the money. So yeah.
I have very many thoughts about that, but
I know, but those thoughts are what's going to keep you as a Polaroid rather than a digital camera. You see what I'm saying? So some of it could be you lean in and say, kind of like you had to do with ChatGPT, but you lean in and you say the right way to publish your ugly book. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Something like that. So you're being the resource rather than the service. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Cool beans, cool beans. Dr. LaFera said, I'm going to write a book and mini course with every challenge that I do, beginning with this fall juicing one. Yes, please
Absolutely.
do. Shawana said, right.
Well, you know what? Because I actually follow him. I've had the opportunity to be on the production end of him doing an interview. And so when I know that he has over 60 books, when you mention him, he is a great example of him and even so many others. And they'll say, okay, but it's not hurting their sales, because if you still stand in who you are as the expert, he's used those as tools. Those things are used as tools. So I love, Heather, that is a great way for you to not necessarily using him as the example. However, because if there is a right way, there is a wrong way. And so you using that spin on it to lean in for people who they're a stickler with grammar, right? Even though they're not the best, but they would still want their stuff done that way. You could lean in on tips and things like that when you think about a person like him, because you right, Shay, he's the only person that I know that have over 60 books.
Yeah. And guess what? Your traditional thought of a book ain't what them books is. Because look, back when I was doing publication services, I published 4 of his books. And so what I know was I felt a little disgusted, but that man way of doing stuff, right? Because let me tell you how them books was about 100 pages, right? Yeah. And on one page was a symbol, on the next page was a quote, and on the next page was a paragraph of information. And he just repeated that throughout the whole book for about 100 pages. And I was like, y'all know what? Whatever.
But he used those as tools.
But that micro content was very focused. It was still valuable. So we cannot let our old way of thinking get in the way, because if what innovation is calling for is for you to think differently, we have to think differently. Yeah. Right? Yeah. How can we lean into it? Because the way we're thinking is old fashioned. And it's going to just keep you over there writing in order in your own world, not making enough money. So we have to think about how can we do that. Now, another thing is your content should be reflecting, Heather, when it's okay to do that and when it's not. And so what that means is you might need to lean into targeting your services to people who can't get away with that. What we know is academia people can't get away with that. You know what I'm saying? What we know is people who are highly credentialed, they can't get away with that. And they scared to even try, right? What we know is there are certain areas of industry where it still has to go by the traditional way. So maybe a part of your pivot is to seek them out. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Instead of just entrepreneurs, because I'm a great example. I'm the entrepreneur. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I had to get myself there because I can get hung up in a cycle of perfectionism. But once it's out, it's out. Unless it's a grave mistake, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
got you.
Do I write like I talk? Yes, on purpose. You know what I'm saying? So I don't care. Another thing is like I was talking to Dr. Joffrey on yesterday. Y'all know he's academia. He's a medical doctor, right? And so what medical doctors, they tend to be judgmental of things. And so I was telling him that I need him, and this might be good for you, Dr. LaFera, we need to start pre-recording all of his challenges so we can offer them on Evergreen rather than doing them live every time. Okay, we might do them live every once in a while, but we need to get these things on Evergreen so that when people go to our website, there's a whole section that's on challenges and they can click in Evergreen, go through a challenge whenever they want to, right? Especially challenges that require them to buy your product. And he said, okay. He was like, I'm gonna get in touch with this video person. I was like, we don't even know this gonna work yet. Stop going to professional production first. We need to test it out. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna do the best you can by yourself, which is not bad. I mean, you done pay for all this stuff in your house. You down there got production level stuff in your house. So you do it first. And then we're gonna, as it gets popular, maybe we sell it, maybe we package it. Now it can be on a stream that they buy and stuff like that. That's when we need to up the production. So yeah, all of that. Dr. LaFera said he could add value with each one in a workshop to increase engagement. I'm recording this challenge in Zoom and we'll have it edited down professionally later after I get feedback. Yep, exactly. Ain't nothing wrong with doing it beta. I am very good at removing other people's expectations and requirements off of me. So that I can just get stuff done. Because see, if I'm already my own worst critic. I'm already a perfectionist. If you believe in the zodiac, that's that Virgo creeping in. I'm a perfectionist. I like things in a certain way. And then I'm from the South. I was raised that things have to be done right and in order is a phrase that we use in the South, right? So I have to combat that stuff because it'll keep me in a cycle of production and consumption rather than getting it out there. Right? I need to release that stuff. So now I've kind of taught myself, hey, do it to the best of your, and release it, baby. We're not going to keep going in this cycle of trying to make it better, right? So done is better than perfect. In the words of Lamar Tyler of TSP, done is better than perfect. A lot of people say that, but that's the first person I heard say it. So we have to get our stuff out there. All right. Any questions about the levels of risk? Start thinking about your questions while I do these announcements right quick. Do you need the morning show in your inbox? You will get an email to remind you to hop on the YouTube live in the mornings, and in the afternoon you will get an email with 2 links. One is for the replay and one is to my show notes, because I always give you more in the morning show, and that more comes from my show notes, so I give them to you. Okay. Tonight is supposed to be our Clarity Clinic day 2. It's not too late, but you have to buy the success kit to get the replay of day 1 before you come into day 2, or day 2 is going to be useless to you. Okay. Now, don't y'all forget, I'm in inclement weather. So I'm gonna try my best to let you know if something is happening. I won't really know, y'all can tell it's dark as I don't know what and it's raining, but it really hasn't picked up yet. I haven't looked at the storm's path this morning, but it's supposed to hit Cozumel, which y'all know I can see out my window straight across the way. And then it's supposed to head towards Cancun and get worse. I don't know if it's going to knock out my power. I don't know if it's going to knock out my internet. It's already been going in and out the internet the last couple of days. So I'll keep you posted. Tomorrow night is movie club night. I'm going to put up the event, and I haven't even looked at the poll, but the poll closed yesterday. I don't know what won. I'm going to have to go back over there and look, but we're supposed to watch the movie tomorrow. If there is a problem and my power is still out, because sometimes when the power goes out, it stays out for 24 hours, I will do my best to let you guys know. Friday is the Get Shit Done work session on Friday. It's for the paid membership, but the free community can come in at 3 p.m. All right. Any questions before we get out of here on your assessment of risk and the levels? Because tomorrow what we're going into is action based on risk. Okay. We're going to talk about proactiveness and we're going to talk about reactiveness. Because see, this is where that, as a chief operating officer, we do risk assessments and we do crisis management. right, in businesses. And so we're going to give you some of those tools on tomorrow. So we've been kind of dancing around like, what is risk? What isn't it? Right? What are the different categories that we can put risk in, and how do we assess it is what we did today. But tomorrow we're going to talk about actions that we need to take to get over these risks. Okay. So any questions before we get out of here? Let me see what's going on YouTube. Glow is just letting us know she getting serious about stuff, and she has even raised her prices. Proud of you, Glow. All right. Well, we passed time anyway. The studio is closing. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. We're closing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a great day.